Welcome to the Go Get Great podcast, the perfect spot for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm Brittany, your host, an online marketing strategist and mom of 5. Here you'll discover how to start or scale your small business with practical marketing and business strategies that even the busiest entrepreneurs can implement. But we don't just stop at business insight, because we know that what you do when you're not wearing your entrepreneur hat is just as important to the success of your business. As a fellow mom, I understand the importance of having a space for real talk where we share the relatable, messy moments of balancing motherhood and a business. So let's dive in and start your journey from good to great. She's back! Okay, I had to do it. I'm sorry. I heard the audio clip going around on Instagram a while ago, and it's been in my head to do when I started my podcast again. And I'm so excited to be back at podcasting. I know I released a couple episodes since we moved, but they were very random and sporadic. But now that we're more settled into our house, I am so excited to start podcasting more consistently again. And I have just so many fabulous ideas that I've been racking up over the months. I almost don't even know where to start. Maybe we should just start with a life update and then I'll go from there. Yeah, let's do it. We're pivoting. Okay. So last time I was podcasting consistently, we were still living in our old house. That was April of 2025, you guys. It's now February of 2026. Yikes. That being said, I popped into my podcasting dashboard today just to kind of see how things were going. And I was really amazed to see that I'm still getting pretty consistent downloads on my podcast episodes. So if you guys have been thinking about starting a podcast, whether just for personal pleasure or whether it's because you have a small business and you want to use it as a marketing tool in your business, I say go for it, because I think I've posted a grand total of 4 episodes in the last May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, 10 months. I think I published 4 episodes in the last 10 months, and I'm still getting very consistent downloads, not nearly as consistent as when I was publishing regularly, obviously, but consistently enough that I was happy with the numbers, considering that I have not released a new episode in 2 months for a minimum, and before that, many months. So it's definitely a fabulous form of long form content. Podcasts are great. Blogging is also a really great option if you're interested in either, both something that we can support you with in Brittany Miller Socials. But that's not what I was going to talk about today. Life update. So like I was saying, last time I was publishing consistently, it was last April. It was before we were moving, back when Brittany and Grayson had grand delusions, guys, of living in our house by the end of June, maybe July, definitely August. That didn't happen. If you've been following me on social media, you know with 100% certainty that did not happen. It has been a long road to get here, you guys. And I mean, truthfully speaking, the house is 30% done. We thought we would have been 100% complete by August for sure. So we've been humbled in this renovation, as we have been humbled in all of the other renovations we've done, but not nearly to this scale. So I don't think I'm necessarily going to talk about reno updates specifically yet, because I was kind of hoping that Grayson was going to be able to join me for that, and he's presently entertaining our infant in the other room so that I can record without squeaking from a jumper or random screams and gurgles, because he's decided he needs something different than what he presently has. So we'll see whether or not he can get him to go to sleep and come out and chat with me. But yeah, so April, sold our house, packed all of our boxes, moved. Moving is stressful. And I mean, this was our second time, third time moving. I mean, more so. But third time moving since becoming parents, which was a whole thing. And I didn't really talk about the moving process. I talked about the staying at Airbnbs and hotel process. That's another episode. That one was a good one. You should go and check that one out. I don't remember what number it was, but I can link it in the show notes. But trying to pack things while living in a house with young children is horrible. there's no other way to say it, because like the first thing that you want to instinctively pack is the toys, because they continue to make messes. So then you have to spend your time cleaning them instead of doing other packing projects and getting ready to move projects. But they're the thing that you can't pack because that's what entertains the kids while you do that. So it's just a frustrating struggle of wanting to pack and get things done and ready to move and not being able to do that, because if you pack it all away, you're going to have screaming children for an indeterminate amount of time until you actually move. So what you basically have to do is wait until 48 hours until it's your moving time. And then you have to scramble pack, because now is an acceptable time to do that, because you can handle 48 hours of chaos from your children, but you cannot handle 4 weeks of chaos from your children to do it in advance. So as much as I was like, we got confirmation that we closed on the house in January, and we knew that our moving date was April. So I was like, oh, I have so much time. I'm going to be so organized this time when we move, and I'm going to have everything done in advance, and then moving day is going to get here, and I'm going to be so relaxed. No. Moving day got there, and it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and I was panicking that the new owners of the house were going to arrive before we got all of our shit out of the house. That was the reality of the situation we're in. And granted, half of that is my mom's fault, because she decided she needed to come in and act like Sparkle's cleaning service when we needed to have already vacated the premise. And I'm like, Mom, I know we're supposed to clean, but like they're not expecting hotel level cleanliness here. We're supposed to sweep the floors and wipe the counters, not deep clean the trim. I'm just like, please, mother, go outside. And then she's like, well, we didn't dig out the garden. Like, no, we didn't dig out the garden. We didn't freaking have time for that. As much as I wanted to bring my raspberry bushes with me, and it was a condition of the sale that I could take them, I had fully intended to uproot all of them. I just never got around to it. So there she is, 2:00 in the afternoon on closing day, when we're supposed to be out by like 11, noon at the latest, and she's digging out raspberry bushes for me. And I'm just like, Mom. Grace and I just left. We just left. Technically speaking, we owned the property and we vacated the premise. How long she was there after us, I don't know. Thankfully, the new owners never showed up, because I'm sure that would have been a fantastical tale that she would have told me about meeting the new homeowners of the house. And I did not get that. So fortunately for us, they were either at work or the lawyers held the keys in delay, whatever the thing was. Praise the universe for that one. But man, was that a stressful day. And I really tried to be organized and pack in advance. And now that we're into like the unpacking process, I'm realizing I was definitely nowhere near as organized as I was planning to be, and that I thought I was. I was like, it's great. We got everything packed. Eventually we got everything packed. I labeled some boxes, and I was like, need right away, put at front of storage unit when we were like packing everything. And it was great. And it was there, and it was supposed to be really nice and easy. We were supposed to have the unit moved, it arrive at our house, and we just be able to like open it and take out the stuff that we needed, like toilet paper and paper towel and like frying pans and cutlery and all those things. And I had even gone out and picked up like paper plates and plastic utensils, so that we didn't have to worry about like washing dishes for the first couple days. And I was like, I've thought this through. It's gonna be swell. And then the storage unit sat on our yard. And it sat on our yard, and it sat on our yard, because the renovations were more involved than I had planned. And I'm going to say I had planned, because Grayson has disagreements about what we had planned to do for the renovation. He wanted to come in and rip out the lath and plaster. Guess who got his way? And I wanted to leave some of it in certain areas so that we could live in the house sooner. I got overruled. It's fine. I'm happy about it now, but it definitely was a frustrating, what did we say? 10 months? 10 months. 9 months, I guess. We technically moved in last month to get to this phase. So then by the time we were trying to get stuff out of the unit, at a point in time where Grayson was sleeping in a tent, and at some point we thought we might do that with the kids. But then September rolled around and we had a baby, and I wasn't sleeping in a tent with a baby. So then I was staying at Mom's, and we weren't really staying in the tent, but Grayson was. So then we tried to pull some stuff out of the unit, and everything got disorganized. And then eventually we decided we didn't want to continue paying for the unit once we got the attic into a condition where there was like plywood floors so that we could actually store stuff up there. So then Grayson and his friend Nick unloaded everything. And then all the stuff that was at the front of the unit that was supposed to be neat immediately got stuffed at the back of the attic. So here we are in like December, January, trying to get the house ready for us to move in, and we can find nothing. No plates, no glasses, no frying pans. We had to like rearrange the attic 6 times. We were actually just up there again last night for over an hour trying to find bedding. And I opened the box this morning. It's not even really bedding, even though it was labeled bedding, maybe at the very bottom. But like the kids have been sleeping on mattresses, and now we were sleeping upstairs, and now we're sleeping on the main floor of the house now that it's mostly done, so that Grayson can then hopefully next week start working on finishing the second floor, so that we didn't have to worry about our beds getting covered in sand and drywall dust and sawdust and whatever other messes he needs to make in order to finish the second floor. So we're like, we'll move everything downstairs and we'll just like block off the stairwell and hope that we don't get too much stuff traveling downstairs while we work on finishing the second floor. So they're sleeping on these mattresses that have no sheets on them because I can't find any of our bedding. We still don't know where our knife block is. That's another mystery. We swear we've been through all of the boxes in the attic at least twice, and there is nothing left labeled kitchen, and we have no idea where our knife block is. I think we're still missing most of our glassware as well. And I think we're still missing some kid stuff. So like, I don't know whether it was a box that went into, because we had the storage unit and then we totally filled the storage unit like to the brim. And then we rented a U-Haul van, filled that baby. And then we also needed both my dad's, my brother's, and our SUV to get the rest of the stuff out of the house. But at that point in time, I wasn't paying for an entirely second unit because they're expensive. They're like $250 a month, which isn't a lot, especially considering the fact that it was portable and like we didn't have to put our stuff in a storage unit and then drive it somewhere else. Like it was definitely convenient. But to pay $250 a month just to have our stuff sit on the front lawn, that was a no for me. That was why we put it all in the attic and went through all this headache in the first place. But yeah, it's been a disorganized mess. Very disorganized. But we're working through it. We're getting there. Yeah, so that was like that was like April through to June that we stayed, that we moved out of our house, stayed in Airbnbs and hotels alternatingly. That was a nightmare. I'm not sure that I'll ever stay in an Airbnb with children again. And it wasn't even really that the kids did anything. I'm hoping that it was just the host being super nitpicky, but that was brutal. And it cost me money that I don't think that I should have paid to replace damage that we didn't do. We also got blamed for her hot water tank not working in a basement we were not allowed to go in. So that was a whole separate thing. That was, yeah, not fun. So we did that into June, and then I was like, Mom, this is like financially ruining us, because we were spending all of the money that we were supposed to be using on renovations, on hotel bills and Airbnbs and takeout when we were at the hotel, because there was no kitchen. So we had to eat all of our meals out except for the complimentary breakfast that they served in the morning, which was fine. Like I had nowhere to make lunches. So we were staying in the hotel, and my parents were like 10 minutes away, like they weren't far. So my mom would make the kids lunches in the morning and send them with my dad when he left for work at like 6 a.m. because he was working like 10 minutes past where we were staying. So like he had to drive past the hotel to get to his job site, which was a blessing that he was working in St. Thomas and not out in like Tillsonburg or Woodstock like he usually would be. So he would drop the kids' lunches off in the morning on the way to work. And then every couple of days we would go back to my mom's so that we could return the lunch pails for her to then wash and refill again and send with dad each day. So the kids had lunch to take to school, because otherwise I was going to have to send them to school every day with takeout, which I didn't really want to do, or like Lunchables, which are not super fantastic. But there's only so much stuff you can store in a little bar fridge in a hotel when you have no kitchen, which is why we eventually decided that we weren't going to stay in the hotel and we were going to go to the Airbnb. And like I said, that was just a whole separate shenanigan. Did make functionally life easier aside from the host. of the Airbnb. But again, I don't really want to go there. So then in June, I was like, Mom, no, please. And then we moved in to her basement, which I'm going to say scrambled to finish and put that in imaginary air quotes. Because, guys, they're still working on a basement renovation that they started a year and a half ago, and we will have completely demolished and rebuilt our whole house before they get around to finishing that. That's their renovation speed. And I say that with kindness because they're my parents, and I know that having a whole bunch of extra humans in the house does slow things down. But like, really? You needed to relay existing already pre-cut flooring and reinstall the trim that was already there that you just took off because they had laminate floor in the basement. So it had separated in certain spots. So they took all the flooring out and they were just going to put it back in, but put it in and then maybe fix like a couple end pieces. So hopefully they wouldn't get the separation in the laminate as seasons changed and all those wonderful things, and then just reinstall the trim. So they also like painted the walls and all those things. So it was like a cosmetic refresh of the basement. And it's still not done. I don't get it. It drives me bananas. I see all these, kind of a tangent, but I see these reels on social media that's like, oh, I'm type B and I need a deadline to get things done. So I have these unfinished renovation projects from like 5 years ago. And I'm like, I was like, you have just killed me in my soul. I was like, I can't. It would drive me nuts. Like unfinished projects are like a never ending nagging to-do list item for me. Which is where Grayson and I struggle slightly because he can ignore those things and be like, I need to relax. Whereas I'm the type of person that can't relax until all those things are done. And, you know, of course, those two people get married and live together and do extensive home renovations. So it's an ongoing, reoccurring problem. But I was like, I couldn't do it. I can't leave things outstanding like that. I can put it off for a little while because I have more important priorities. So, for example, the bathroom renovation that we've been working on, the one on the main floor, has technically been in air quotes done, meaning the bathroom has been functional since about November, aside from the pipes freezing, but that's a separate thing. But it's not done in my eyes because there are still outstanding projects, like the fact that we're still missing a piece of trim above the door, and we needed to wood fill some of the nail holes from the side door pieces of trim that he put on a while ago and just never got around to. So I actually did that the other day. I wood filled it. I'm waiting on him to sand it so that I can paint it, but I need the other piece to go on too. But then outside of that, the back of the door is not painted. And it's one of the ones, one of the existing ones from the house. So one of the few that we're actually keeping. So it needs to come off. It needs to get sanded because it has been painted, but not the color that I want. And then I need to repaint it. And then above and beyond some of those things, there's just like very small things that need fixing. Like when we installed the drywall, he tries really hard, but it's very difficult to accurately cut around like outlet boxes. So there's like some where there's like still small gaps there. And to me, that is a nagging to-do list item that still needs to get fixed. And little things like I need to buy curtains because the ones that are hanging there just so people can't see us having a bath are not the ones that are meant to be there. And that's more cosmetic than renovation. But like all of these things go through my mind every time I walk into the room, and it's just like, ugh, there's so much stuff to do still. So it's very hard for me to like relax because I just couldn't do that. I couldn't. I ignore it as long as I can. And like ordering curtains should really be easy, and I would really love to do that, but it's not in the budget. So that annoys me because that would be a very easy project for me to fix, a thing that I could cross off my to-do list theoretically, but we don't really have the funds for it right now, so I can't. So every time I walk in the room, it reminds me that I need to work harder to get more clients, to generate more income so that I can then buy these things for it to be in the budget to do that. And it's a never-ending cycle, you guys. That's the personality that I've been blessed with. It has blessings and curses. It's great because I'm highly motivated and I get a lot of shit done. People say I'm very highly productive, but I feel like I'm also burnt out very consistently because I cannot relax until all the to-do list stuff is done, and the to-do list stuff is never done. Not when you're a parent. You could clean up toys all day. You could clean the floors all day. You could spend all day making food in the kitchen, and I guarantee you your children would eat it all, assuming they're not picky eaters like some of mine. So, you know, it's a thing. So we moved in with my mom in June. We ended up staying. I told her we were only staying until school was done, which was supposed to be 3 weeks. And then we ended up staying June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months. Might have overstayed our welcome just a teeny bit there. So we stayed with her through the summer, which was nice to be able to do that because I had already enrolled the girls in summer camp in St. Thomas. So it's kind of a good thing that we were there. Rhett was still in daycare at the time. It made things sort of convenient. And then there was an issue with our daycare subsidy, and then we had to switch him to the Merlin daycare because that was the only place we could get the subsidy once we changed our address. So then that got a little trickier because then that's when we were dividing ourselves. And I had to stay in St. Thomas with the girls, and by then the baby, because that was September, we had the baby. And then Grayson was down with Rhett, and then eventually with Luca, who also got a placement, which we were fortunate enough to get. So, that was most of September through December, and then also navigating having a new baby, a fifth baby. You guys, 5. I still sometimes struggle to wrap my head around that, even though like he's like 5 months old now, almost 6 months old. Well, I guess almost 5 months old, but like 5 months plus the 9 months that I knew that I was pregnant is an extensive period of time to still not 100% have my head wrapped around having 5 children, but there's 5 of them. So, that's the logistics of balancing all that kept me busy, quite busy through the entire fall. And then December hits and I cry internal tears because December is chaos at the best of times for us because it's end of school, Christmas vacation. It's Christmas in general. There's more kids to buy presents for, and we had a very small budget this year. So I was here, there, and everywhere at thrift stores and marketplace pickups getting gifts for this year to try and keep our budget small. And I mean, to give me credit, I think I actually did pretty decently with Christmas, and I really wanted to kind of record like a podcast about it and like track what I spent more consistently, but I don't have time for that. Maybe next year, because I know people are curious about things like that. And like, I wonder too, like I try to do the whole Christmas, something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read. But 4 gifts times 5 kids, although we didn't really buy anything for Orion because he was only like 2 months old. But even 4 times 4 is 16 presents alone. Times that by at least a minimum of $20 each is, and I'm not going to do that mental math in my head, but I was like, Christmas is adding up fast. Haven't got anything for my parents, my brother, Grayson, or myself, because realistically I have to shop for me too. So like I would say that we didn't really do a lot for Grayson and I this Christmas. And I saw so many really cute Christmas renovation content-esque things that I wanted to put together. And I was like never at the house to film any of it. So that made me sad. But the one that really stood out to me was Christmas when you're renovating, and it's literally each partner just wandering around the house putting bows on things. So like drywall, light fixtures, kitchen counters, and it's like, Merry Christmas. I was like, yeah, that was it. Except Grayson decided that we were going to redeem some TD points that we had and purchase. Technically, it's a gift for me, but it's a gift for the household. And that was how I ended up getting the KitchenAid mixer that I've wanted for years and years and years. And I mean, it was a Christmas gift, but it was also like a practical investment for our family because he knows that I really want to make more stuff at home because our grocery bills are insane. That's part of the reason why I want to start gardening. But that will be a topic for a separate podcast episode because that's a whole conversation. So that was kind of one of the reasons why we bought it because, even at Mom's, I was like trying to make stuff, and it's so hard because, to make enough muffins for a week for us, even, we're kind of at like a 24 situation, but I'm also not the type that likes to make everything from scratch each week, which is why I cried tears when I found out how much it was going to cost to fix our stand-up freezer. It's crazy the things that, frustrate you as an adult. Kids cry over the color of cups. Adults cry over their freezers breaking. Yeah, so, if I'm going to make a batch of muffins, I would usually make enough for about a week for us. So about a dozen and a half, give or take. Sometimes I would put like pre-cooked muffins in the freezer if we ended up making too many that I knew we weren't going to eat that fast, because homemade stuff also goes bad faster. Catch 22. But then what I would also do is I would like pre-make more batches of the batter, and then I freeze the batter in a freezer bag. And then I put like the baking instructions, bake at 350 for 25 minutes kind of thing. So that, like the next weekend, instead of making like muffins and, egg bites or, whatever it was that I was going to make, I could make something different to then stock the freezer, because then I could pull out a couple, like a bag of the muffin mix that I had frozen the week before. So, I might only prep muffin mix every 3 weeks, let's say, and I do a batch for the week and then put 2 in the freezer. So then the next 2 weeks, maybe I'm freezing breakfast burritos. And then the week after that, maybe I'm freezing, I don't know, homemade lasagna or something. So like that's kind of how I do it. But to hand mix like 4 to 6 batches of muffin batter at the same time, not only does it take hours, but like my arms hurt and it's super time consuming. And like the kids always want to help and stuff like that. And then batter's everywhere because you're trying to like do large batches in bowls that are not designed for large batches. And I mean, that's just kind of a separate bowl problem of being at my mom's house and her not having the kitchen equipment that I'm used to working with. Again, separate problem. So that was why we ended up investing in one of those for Christmas. So, I mean, it was a smaller Christmas this year aside from that one big purchase for us. And that's actually like a trend that I kind of hope to carry into 2026 for us. It's going to be a leaner year for us, that's for sure. Will we still try and finish up some of the renovations? Grayson will be going back to work soon, which is great financially, and it sucks in literally every other way. I'm not looking forward to that. And when he goes back to work, it's going to help a little bit. But like until we can finish enough of the house that we can actually refinance it, we're not really going to be spending a lot of money right now. And again, I'll talk about that more in another episode because you guys ask for like a budget breakdown of like what our expenses are as a large family, as a large renovating family, I think is kind of the underlying tone there. And also the things that we choose not to spend money on as a big family. So we'll go into more of that there. But I do want to still try and make sure that there's enough room once he's back at work in our budget so that we can be investing strategically, not just like splurge purposes, but strategically on things that are going to make life as a large family easier. So, I mean, some things off the top of my head, I really want to get my stand-up freezer fixed. And if I don't get it fixed, then I want to buy a new used one. Stand-up freezers are like $3,000. Definitely not buying a new one. But we'll try and find one on Marketplace or something. Because for me to be making all of this stuff, I then need somewhere to store it. And the stand-up freezer is really helpful for that. And also now that a grocery store is technically 15 minutes away, which honestly is no different than driving to the grocery store in St. Thomas by the time you factor in traffic. So, I mean, really it's not. But to get to the grocery stores that I like to shop at, like No Frills, Superstore, Food Basics, kind of any of the less expensive ones, better sales, price matching options, we're talking more like 20-25 minutes to get into Chatham, because the ones that are 15 minutes away are in Tilbury and Blenheim, and they're Foodland. And I went there last week because I needed to go in to drop off a parcel and get formula. So I went to Tilbury to do that. And I'm like looking at a yogurt and it's like $9 a container. And there were a couple other things which naturally off the top of my head I'm not going to recall, but I'm like, that's almost $3 to $4 more expensive than when I buy it at Superstore. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to pick up, but that I didn't because it was going to put us way over our grocery budget. So then when we finally did go grocery shopping last week, I ended up spending $700 and my budget was $350. Granted, I bought quite a bit of stuff knowing that I then wouldn't have to buy as much stuff when I go back later in the month, but still. But being 20 to 25 minutes away from a grocery store means that if I forget something, I'm not just popping out to get it because it's not worth it. So I want to be able to either have the ingredients on hand to make something, like if I need hamburger buns or something, I can just whip up a batch here, cool beans. Or like we go without. So I want to get in the habit of kind of doing bigger grocery shops so that I'm not needing to go to the grocery store 2 or 3 times a week. And in order to do that, I need freezer space to put meat and veggies, and to be able to price match, because that's huge. When chicken goes on sale for like $5.99, that's a great price for boneless, skinless chicken, which we eat a lot of, a lot of. So I'll buy, 4 or 8 packs of it, because a lot of times we'll eat chicken twice a week. So, I mean, technically speaking, that's only a month's worth of chicken for us. And I don't want to have to buy chicken at full price. So then I need somewhere to store it. So getting the freezer fixed is a big one for us. We need a new cheese grater. I want to get a nice one, like that you spin, kind of like East Side Mario styles, but like standing. I've seen other influencers use them, and I'm like, oh my God, my arms wouldn't hurt after grating cheese for 4 lasagnas that I'm making tonight. So I want to get one of those. And I mean, like, that's $35. And, before that would be something that I would have just like impulse purchased, like, no big deal. Yeah, it's only like $30, whatever. I'm just going to order it. And now I'm like, okay, well, if I order this $30 cheese grater, that means that I have $30 less to spend on groceries in 2 weeks. So what are we cutting out of the grocery budget? Oh, just kidding. We can't do that. So we're not buying the cheese grater right now. So intentional purchases are my focus for 2026. So those are 2 examples of some things that I want to get. A lot of it is like kitchen stuff, honestly, to be able to make food at a mass quantity without spending all of my life in the kitchen. And then there will be some other things for like household things. Like I want to get some outside stuff for the kids. Kind of toying with the idea of getting a clothesline again. I've had them at other houses and never really used them, but now that our laundry room is much more conveniently located to an exit in the house, I feel like I might actually take the laundry out of the wash, walk 4 steps to the door, and then put it out on the line. Whereas when I had this idea in the past, the laundry was in the basement. So there were much more perceived barriers to doing that. I had to put the laundry in the basket. I have to carry it all the way upstairs. And not only do I have to carry it all the way upstairs, I have to carry it all the way through my entire main floor of the house to get to the patio door in our master bedroom and then put it out on the line. Like, that's just too much effort when the dryer's sitting right there. But also, running appliances is kind of expensive, and in the summer it's hot. So, little things like that I've been, percolating with, and making sure that I've got like a really good laundry setup. So another intentional purchase, I'm going to put that in air quotes, is going to be an intentional renovation that we do. I want a laundry chute, you guys. We are going back to like the 80s, and I am putting a bloody laundry chute from my second floor to my laundry room downstairs, so that I am not carting bajillions of baskets of laundry downstairs every week to wash them. Kids can put their clothes in the chute. It'll end up in the laundry room. I'll sort it, I'll wash it, and then I'll carry it upstairs. That sounds so lovely. So just like setting my house and my life up to strategically work for us. That's kind of like my goal for 2026. And I feel like I got a little derailed giving you an update on what we've been doing for the past 10 months. So we were talking about Christmas in December. And so in addition to all of that chaos, it's also my mom's birthday on the 23rd, Ray's birthday on the 27th. So we had her birthday. Or we were supposed to have her birthday. She's been sick for the last 2 years for her scheduled birthday party. So we've had to reschedule. That was fun times. And there's really nowhere in St. Thomas to have a birthday party inside. And my mom's not really keen on having people in her house. So doing a party at a house, which is what we usually do, didn't really work very well. So we ended up just going to McDonald's with some of the kids. And I was worried that McDonald's wasn't going to like that, but they didn't say anything. So that's good. I mean, to be fair, there was like 4 children, 2 of mine and 2 of Ray's friends. So then we had that craziness. And then before the holidays were done, we're like, no, we are going to live in our house. Then the kids were switching schools over the holidays. That was my plan. So then we were trying to get the house ready, and then we were moving in, and then we were like here, but then half the main floor wasn't done. And that was fun. And that was still when we had like nothing in the kitchen because we couldn't find anything. So the first 2 weeks of January were stressful. And then we were just kind of like settling into routine. And then all of our pipes froze. So that was great. In a household of 7 people, not being able to flush a toilet, the bathroom smelled like a porta potty most of the time. It was not pleasant. Poor Grayson's renovating and getting covered in drywall dust and sawdust, and you can't even shower because there's no running water in the house. So that was why we kept going back to my mom's for the weekend, or then it would be really, really cold. And because we have so many unfinished areas in the house, the heat pumps aren't sufficiently heating the house when it's negative 22 degrees outside. So then it was so cold, like too cold for the baby and I. So we kept going back to my mom's house for that. So I felt like I was living in my car without living in my car, but we were driving back and forth so much, trying to, be here so the girls could be in school and the boys could be in daycare, but then be at mom's so that we could have personal hygiene without feeling homeless, because there were days where we legitimately felt very marginally above homeless people. It was like, we have no personal hygiene. It's freezing freaking cold. Like, we're only like a couple degrees warmer than being outside right now. Like, we can't really cook for ourselves because, again, no running water, like can't even boil pasta, can't wash fruits or vegetables. So we ate a lot of lasagna, like grocery store boxed lasagna, because we could just put it in the oven and then cut it on paper plates. It's a good thing the paper plates didn't get too soggy and rip. I was worried about that. So those first couple weeks were definitely a big struggle. And it just felt busy. And then it was Rhett's birthday. And I impromptu planned, you're going to put planned in air quotes, did a birthday party for him on his birthday, because Grayson's mom and brother happened to be at the house that day renovating, and my dad then needed to come up for some reason. So I'm like, just bring mom and Brandon, I'll make a cake. Only to then realize I didn't actually have any ingredients to make a cake, because I hadn't done like a grocery shop to stock my cupboard like I usually had with flour and baking soda. So then Grayson's going to the corner store trying to look for in the corner store, because there's a corner store in Merlin, and that's like about it, but it's very pricey. So I mean, it's not pricey for a convenience store, but it's pricey compared to what I'm used to paying at a grocery store. So then I try not to go there too much is basically all that I'm saying. He's looking for like cake mix and icing. And then I made the world's ugliest cake. It's like, if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I struggle to make cakes for my kids because I love the concept of doing it, but I'm also a perfectionist, unfortunately. And when I look at a picture on Pinterest and I go, I can do that, and then I try and do that and it doesn't look like the picture on Pinterest, there's meltdowns. Yeah, I have those. Like, this was actually the worst looking cake that I have ever made. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to take a picture of this one. We don't want to document this for Rhett. Poor Rhett. He's going to be like, look at the beautiful cakes mom made for my sisters, and then look at what she did for me. But like, I'm sorry, buddy. I tried. I couldn't find any of my cake decorating supplies. Like, I have special, like icing tools and like even just like my piping stuff. Who knows where any of that is? So yeah, it was bad. It was ugly, but we did it. He ate cake. He was happy. He opened presents. It was fine. Thankfully, I had purchased those in advance. I've now gotten in the habit of buying Rhea's birthday gifts and Rhett's birthday gifts and also Grayson's birthday gifts when I do my Christmas shopping, because they're just so bloody close together. It doesn't matter. So Rhea, December 27th, Grayson, January 6th, Rhett, January 20th. My brother's January 18th. Not that I really buy him a birthday gift anymore, but there's that. And then Rhett's birthday. And then we get a little bit of a reprieve until my dad's birthday in February. But there's just so much going on in that short period of time. I was like, that's a lot of holiday planning, gift buying, food making, and just like gatherings for Christmas. And then four birthdays? Mom, Rhea, Brandon, Gray. 5 birthdays. 5. I needed to math my math better. So that was January. And then we had to go back to mom's one last time because the pipes froze again. So they froze and then thawed and then froze again. And then they were frozen for, I think it was 2.5 weeks the last time. And then I'm like, I have had it. I do not know what the solution is, but we've got to figure this out. So we did. And by we, I mean Grayson figured it out. We did a bunch of Googling actually after having a conversation with my uncle who has a farm. I'm going to say a dairy farm in quotes, but like, it's not a big dairy farm. I wouldn't really call it a hobby farm either. I don't know. He has cows and a barn. I'm just going to leave it at that. So he was like, well, why don't you get heating wires? And I'm like, say what now? So then he's like, oh, well, to keep the water from freezing in the barn, because obviously we're not running that consistently and it's not insulated like a house. He's like, we get heating coil. And he's like, we just run that and we've never had any problems with our pipe freezing. And I'm like, do you know how many people we've talked to about this problem? We've called plumbers and like everyone under the sun. And you're the first person to mention this. But I'm like thankful that he did, because that solved our problem. So we put the heating coils on. Well, it did sort of solve it. Yeah. Okay. So we put the heating coils on, and then it thawed the water that was frozen in the pipes. But then we needed to thaw the main water line that, connects the city water to the house, because that was frozen. So then that was where we were trying to get a myriad collection of heaters under the house to try and do that. And that was just shenanigans. But we sorted it out. We finally got it thawed, thankfully. And then we heating coiled it all now. And we have not, knock on wood, had any problems with it since then. And I think it's been two weeks maybe. And it's been pretty cold some of the days. So I've got my fingers crossed that this solves our problem. I don't love that we have to run them all the time, because I'm concerned about my electricity bill. Again, I'll talk about this more in the budgeting episode. But, I usually budget $250 for like hydro water. Our bill last month was $630, and our bill this month was $750. So you can see now why I don't have any disposable income for buying cheese graters. Excuse me. So hopefully next month it will be better, because the weather's getting warmer. So we're not running as many space heaters in the house, thankfully. And we're not running heaters under the house to keep the pipes thawed now that we have the heating coils on there. So we're just hoping that the heating coil wire is not cost equivalent to a space heater, because those are expensive. So that was most of January, and then a little bit into February, and then, Valentine's Day in February. That was actually pretty easy to deal with. And then now here we are. So that's, a very long-winded summary of what the last 10 months has kind of looked for us, without any mention of renovations or really parenting in any sense of the capacity. There's just kind of the overarching events and some random musings throughout. So if you're looking for more details about some of that, if you're not following me on my personal account, that's where you should be now, because my business still exists. It's never going anywhere. But I'm also not focusing on a marketing channel for it, because that's not where my heart is calling me right now. We're focusing on my personal page. And I will still continue to take on clients. Happy to do that. But I'm not going to post on my business page 7 days a week like I used to. I just don't feel like it. So I'm trying to be more consistent posting on my personal account. So that's where you can follow along for all of this stuff, talking about renovations and motherhood and all of those wonderful things. And I will still continue to have business focused content on my podcast. In fact, the episode that I'm planning on recording next is going to be about a ManyChat feature that I'm very excited that they introduced. That was the one that I recorded in December and then didn't end up posting. I'm going to re-record it now with some updated information. So there will still be that on the podcast here as well, but I hang out on socials at Brittany N. Miller _. So you can follow along there and see more of the behind the scenes stuff. But I did post a couple podcast episodes over the last little while talking about snippets of some of the last 10 months. So I mentioned one earlier, the one where I'm talking about Airbnbs versus hotels for parents. That was one of them. I talk a little bit about naming the baby and then the birth experience. So basically the only 4 to 6 episodes I posted between April and December. I think there was one. I posted one about Atlas. That was the only one that doesn't fill in blanks on the timeline that I just highlighted. So that's kind of more or less where things have been going. And if you have specific questions or things that you want me to cover, business-wise, motherhood-wise, budget-wise, reno-wise, send me a message, let me know. I usually get my podcast topic ideas based on conversations that I'm having with people. So I really do take people's feedback seriously, but also if someone's asking about it, somebody else is probably wondering it internally. So that's where a lot of my podcast topics are coming from. So this was more of like general life update. I'm gonna, like I said, try and get Gray out here to do a reno update. I want to do one about gardening. We'll do one about budgeting. I want to do a mom life update one, and then I'll intermix some business content in here too, because I have a couple of those ideas. But so that's kind of where we're at now. I'm happy to be back podcasting more consistently, trying to show up on Instagram more regularly now that we're a little bit more settled and I can film. Mom's not huge on the digital marketing lifestyle, and I can't really film at her house or talk about her in general at all. on social media. I'm hoping she won't listen to this podcast to know that I was talking about her very, very painfully slow renovation. So that made doing my job very difficult for a period of 6 months, not being able to really film content, getting questionable looks every time I needed to pop on stories to talk about something. They just don't understand what I do or how I make money. And I try and be respectful of that, but it's also very frustrating because they're also not really supportive of it. Like, they're not supportive of it, but they're not supportive of it because they don't understand. They're just roll their eyes every time I have to take a video of something. And I'm just like, trying to feed my family here, people. This is how I make money. Anyway, so yeah, we will be back with another episode. I'm going to wrap up there before I keep talking. But thank you so much for listening if you've made it this far. And let me know if you have any other recommendations for topics. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Go Get Great. I hope that you found some inspiration and practical tips to help you take your life and business from good to great. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to leave a review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We've got so much more valuable content and amazing guests coming your way. And don't forget to follow us on social media for marketing tips and a whole lot of relatable mom content. You can find us on Instagram at Brittany Miller Socials and at Brittany N Miller _. And if you're ready to elevate your marketing game, I would love to work with you. Whether you need help with social media strategy, email marketing, or growing a podcast of your own, Brittany Miller Socials is here to support you every step of the way. Visit my website at www.brittnymillersocials.ca to learn more about how we can work together. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep going, keep growing, and go get great.